There's something about working alone at night that changes the way you hear things. During the day, noise is constant. People talk, machines hum, doors open and close. It's chaotic, but it's normal. At night, silence becomes a presence. And when something breaks that silence, you notice. You always notice. The store sat at the edge of a quiet town, the kind of place where streetlights flickered and most people were asleep before midnight. It used to be open 24 hours, though not many people actually came in after 1 a.m. That's when the world paused, frozen, like time itself had stepped outside for a cigarette. I had been working there for a few months, night shift, alone most nights. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid just enough to keep things going. And honestly, I liked the quiet. At least I thought I did. That night started like any other. Fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. The air smelled faintly of cleaning supplies and cardboard. I pushed a stock cart slowly down the aisle, placing items onto shelves one by one. Everything felt routine, predictable, safe, until the sound came. A sudden crash. Somewhere behind me. I froze. It wasn't loud enough to be dramatic, but in that silence it echoed, like something had been knocked over. I turned slowly, scanning the empty aisle behind me. Nothing, just rows of shelves stretching into dim light. My first thought was simple. A customer. It wasn't unusual. Sometimes people wandered in late, quiet, and half asleep. But something didn't feel right. I hadn't heard the entrance door. And that door was impossible to miss. I told myself I was overthinking. Picked up the cart. Kept working. But my movement slowed. My ears strained. Every tiny sound now carried weight. The squeak of wheels. The rustle of plastic. My own breathing. Then I saw him, standing at the far end of the aisle. Not moving, not browsing, just standing there, watching. He didn't approach right away, didn't say anything, just stared. And there was something off about that stare. Not aggressive, not angry, just empty. Like he was looking through me instead of at me. Can I help you? I asked, forcing a normal tone. He blinked slowly, then tilted his head slightly, as if processing the question took effort. Eggs, he said. His voice was flat. Too flat. I nodded, pointing toward the back. Dairy section, last aisle. He didn't respond. Didn't thank me. Didn't move right away either. He just kept staring for a second longer, then turned and walked away. I exhaled, tried to shake it off, but something lingered. A feeling I couldn't explain, like I had just missed something important. Minutes passed. I kept working, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he stood, the way he spoke, the way he looked at me like I was fully there. Then suddenly, he was back, too close this time, standing right beside my cart. I flinched. I hadn't heard him approach, not even a footstep. You work here long? He asked. I nodded cautiously. Yeah, a few months. He leaned slightly closer. How old are you? The question felt wrong, out of place, but I answered anyway. 22. He smiled, but it wasn't a normal smile. It didn't reach his eyes. Do you like working nights? I shrugged. It's quiet. He chuckled softly, a low, unsettling sound. Yeah, he said, very quiet. Something in the way he said it made my stomach tighten, like he knew something I didn't. His questions continued. Where I lived. If I was alone, if I had friends nearby, each one more personal than the last, each one harder to answer without feeling exposed. Then, he reached out, placed his hand lightly on my shoulder. My body tensed instantly. Every instinct screamed at me to move, to get away. I stepped back. "I need to finish stalking," I said quickly. He didn't argue, didn't react, just watched me walk away. But I could feel it, that sensation, like something was following me, even when I couldn't hear it. I made my way toward the back room, heart beating faster now, trying to stay calm, trying to act normal. I slipped inside, closed the door halfway, and waited. Seconds passed, then a minute, then two. Nothing. No footsteps, no voice, no movement. Maybe he left. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe. A faint sound, right outside the door. I held my breath, listening. A slow, dragging noise, like something brushing lightly against the wall. I stepped back, heart pounding now. And then, silence again. I didn't wait any longer. I moved quickly back to the front of the store, determined to stay near the exit, where I felt slightly safer. The store was empty, completely empty. No sign of him. I checked the aisles, one by one, carefully. Nothing. I told myself it was over, that he had left, that I was just letting my imagination get the best of me. But deep down, I didn't believe it. A sudden urge hit me, strong, unavoidable. I needed to go to the bathroom. I hesitated, looked around one more time. The store remained still, silent. I walked toward the back hallway, each step echoing softly, each shadow stretching longer than it should. The bathroom door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, the light flickered once, then steadied. I stepped in, locked the door behind me, and for the first time that night, I allowed myself to breathe. But that relief didn't last long, because just seconds later, the handle behind me moved. Slowly, deliberately. My heart dropped. The door creaked open, and footsteps entered. I froze, standing perfectly still inside the stall. I hadn't made a sound, hadn't flushed, hadn't moved. There was no reason for anyone to know I was there. And yet, they walked in anyway. The footsteps stopped, right outside my stall. Silence, heavy, oppressive. Then, a faint shift, and something appeared in the narrow gap of the stall door. And I, watching, not blinking, not moving, just staring. My breath caught in my throat, my entire body locked in place. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't coincidence. He knew. And in that moment, one terrifying realization settled in. He hadn't been wandering the store. He had been watching me the entire time. And now, there was nowhere left to go. There's a moment in fear where your body stops listening to you. Your mind screams *move, but your muscles lock. Your breath becomes shallow. Your thoughts scatter. And time stretches into something unrecognizable. That's where I was, trapped inside that stall, staring at an eye that didn't blink. It wasn't just the presence of someone outside. It was how he stood there, completely still. No shifting, no breathing sound, nothing. Just that eye fixed on me. My brain scrambled for logic. Maybe he thinks the stall is empty asterisk. Maybe he's checking asterisk. Maybe. No. People don't do that. Not like this. Seconds dragged by, each one heavier than the last. My legs began to shake. My hands trembled. But I didn't move. Because I knew. The moment I did, he'd react. Then slowly, that eye moved. Not away. Closer. The gap between the door and the frame darkened as his face pressed nearer. Trying to see more. Trying to see asterisk me asterisk. That's when instinct took over. My hand dropped to my pocket, fingers closing around the only thing I had. A box cutter. It wasn't much, but in that moment, it was everything. I held it tightly, breathing through my nose, trying not to make a sound, trying to think. You have one chance. The eye shifted slightly again, as if adjusting, as if anticipating movement. And suddenly, I moved. I lunged forward and shoved the blade through the gap. Fast, hard, without thinking. A sharp sound followed. Not quite a scream, more like a startled grunt. The eye disappeared instantly. That was it. My moment. I kicked the stall door open with everything I had. It slammed outward and hit him square in the face. He stumbled back, hands instinctively rising. Disoriented. I didn't wait, didn't hesitate. I ran, out of the bathroom, down the hallway, through the store, past shelves that blurred into streaks of color. My heart was pounding, so loud it drowned out everything else, even my own footsteps. I reached the front door, shoved it open, and burst into the cold night air. I didn't stop running, not until I reached the far edge of the parking lot, not until my lungs burned, not until my legs felt like they might collapse. Only then did I turn back. The store stood there, bright, silent, unchanged. But something felt wrong, deeply wrong, because the door I had just run through was slowly closing. From the inside, I froze. There was no wind, no automatic timer, just movement. And for a split second, before the door shut completely, I saw him, standing inside, watching me. That same expression, blank, emotionless, like none of this had even happened. The door clicked shut, and the silence returned. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt occupied. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking uncontrollably. Called my boss. No answer. Called again. Nothing. Again. Finally, he picked up. What? He muttered, half asleep. There's someone in the store, I said, my voice barely holding together. He followed me into the bathroom. He tried to. Slow down, he interrupted. What are you talking about? I'm outside, I said. I'm not going back in. You need to call the police. There was a pause, then a sigh. Did he steal anything? I stared at the building, at the door, at the faint reflection of lights inside. I don't know, I whispered. I don't care. Another pause, longer this time. Call them yourself, he said. I'll head over. The line went dead. I stood there for a moment, trying to process everything, trying to breathe. Then I dialed, explained as much as I could, my voice still shaking, my thoughts still scattered. They said they'd send someone. So I waited. Minutes passed, each one slower than the last. I didn't take my eyes off the store. Not once, because I had this feeling. If I looked away, even for a second, he'd be gone. Or worse, he wouldn't be inside anymore. Finally, red and blue lights appeared in the distance. Relief hit me like a wave. The police arrived quickly. 2 officers stepped out. Calm, composed, unaware. I tried to explain. Everything. The aisle. The questions. The bathroom. The eye. They exchanged a look. One of them nodded. "Stay here," he said. They approached the store. Slowly, cautiously, one officer opened the door. The other followed, hands near their belts. And then, they disappeared inside. The door closed behind them. And once again, I was alone, standing in that empty parking lot, watching, waiting. Minutes passed. Then the door opened again. The officers stepped out. "Alone. He's not inside," one of them said. My stomach dropped. "What?" I said. "That's not possible. I saw him. I just saw him." "We checked everywhere," the other officer said. "Back room, aisles, storage, nothing." I shook my head. No, he was there. He was watching me." They didn't argue, but I could see it in their faces. "Doubt. Maybe he left before we arrived," one of them suggested. I looked at the door, at the windows, at the empty aisles beyond the glass. "No," I said quietly. "He didn't leave." Because deep down, I knew something they didn't. There hadn't been enough time. And more importantly, I never heard the door open. Mini cliffhanger twist asterisk. As one of the officers turned to leave, he paused. "Hey," he said. "What's this?" He pointed toward the lower part of the glass door. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw it. A faint mark, right at eye level. From the inside, a smudge, like someone had been standing there for a long time, watching. Fear doesn't always end when the danger disappears. Sometimes, it lingers. It settles into your thoughts, your routines, your sense of safety. After that night, I didn't go back to work for 3 days. I told my boss I was sick. He didn't question it. Didn't seem concerned either. To him, it was probably just another excuse. Another employee not wanting to deal with the night shift. But this wasn't that. Because I couldn't sleep. Not properly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. That eye, pressed against the stall, unblinking, waiting. And the worst part, it didn't feel like a memory. It felt present, like it could happen again, at any moment, anywhere. By the 4th day, reality started creeping back in. Bills didn't care about fear. Responsibilities didn't pause for trauma. So I went back. The parking lot looked the same. Empty, quiet, unbothered. The store lights buzzed overhead as I stepped inside. Everything exactly where it should be. Shelves stocked, floors clean. No sign anything had ever happened. That almost made it worse, because it felt like I imagined it. Like my brain had exaggerated something small into something monstrous. Until I saw the door. That same faint smudge. Still there. At eye level. I stopped. Stared at it. This time, I noticed something new. It wasn't just a smudge. It had shape, a curved edge, a slight distortion, like the outline of a face, pressed too hard against the glass. I stepped back, heart beginning to race again. "No," I whispered to myself, "don't start." I grabbed cleaning spray, a cloth, walked up to the door, and wiped it. It took longer than it should have. The mark didn't come off easily, almost like it had been burned into the glass. Eventually it faded. Not completely, but enough to pretend it was gone. That night, I told myself things would be different. I stayed near the front, kept the lights as bright as possible, turned on the radio, something I never did before. Noise helped. It filled the silence, kept my thoughts from wandering. Hours passed. Nothing happened. One customer came in, paid, left. Another stopped for a drink. Normal, routine, safe, and slowly, that tight grip in my chest began to loosen. Maybe it really was just a one-time thing. Maybe he was just some creep who got lucky. Maybe. The phone rang. I flinched. The sound cut through the store like a blade. I stared at it for a moment. Let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I picked it up. "Hello." Silence. I frowned. "Hello." And then, a sound. Not words, not breathing. Just a low, distorted noise. My grip tightened on the receiver. "Who is this?" The sound continued, unchanging, unnatural. Then suddenly, the line went dead. I stood there, frozen, a familiar feeling creeping back in. Slowly, I placed the receiver down and turned toward the door, half expecting no one. The parking lot was empty, dark, still, but something felt wrong. Again, I walked closer to the glass, peered outside. Nothing. Then I noticed it, near the edge of the lot. A shape. At first, I thought it was just a shadow. But shadows don't move. This one did. Slightly, barely noticeable. But enough. My breath caught. I leaned closer to the glass, trying to see, trying to understand. And then, it stepped forward, into the light. My heart dropped. It was him. Same posture, same stillness, same empty stare. But this time, he wasn't pretending to browse. He wasn't asking questions. He was just standing there, looking directly at me. And this time, I noticed something I hadn't before. His face. It wasn't normal, not deformed, not injured, just wrong, like features slightly misplaced. Eyes too focused, smile too slow, like someone trying to imitate a human expression, without fully understanding how. I stumbled back. "No," I whispered. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't random. He came back. For me. The lights flickered. Just once. But it was enough to break my focus. And when I looked back, he was closer. Much closer. Standing just outside the door. Not moving. Not blinking. Just watching. My chest tightened. Panic rising fast. I rushed to the counter. Grabbed the phone. Dialed. Hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. 911, what's your emergency? "He's back," I said, my voice breaking. "The man from before, he's here again. He's outside." "Is he trying to enter?" I looked. He wasn't moving. "No," I whispered, "he's just standing there." There was a pause. "Stay inside," the operator said. "Officers are on their way." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me, and waited. But something inside me told me this wasn't over. Because people don't just stand like that. They don't just watch, unless they're waiting for the right moment. The lights flickered again, longer this time, and for a split second, the store went dark, completely. When the lights came back, he was gone. The space outside the door, empty, like he had never been there. But this time, I didn't feel relief, because now I knew. He didn't need to stand outside anymore. Mini cliffhanger ending, asterisk. A soft sound echoed from somewhere behind me. Inside the store. A slow, dragging noise. The same one I heard before. And suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore. There's a different kind of fear. The kind that doesn't come from what you see, but from what you realize. Because when I heard that sound behind me, it didn't feel like something entering the store. It felt like something that had been there the entire time. The dragging noise came again. Slow, deliberate, somewhere between the aisles. My grip tightened around the phone. The operator was still talking, still asking questions, but her voice felt distant now, like it belonged to another world. "I need you to stay calm," she said. "I'm not alone," I whispered. A pause. "What do you mean?" I didn't answer, because I was already moving, slowly stepping away from the counter, toward the sound. Every instinct told me to stay put, to wait, to hide, but something stronger pulled me forward. A need to know, because uncertainty was worse than fear. The store lights buzzed faintly overhead, flickering just enough to make shadows shift unnaturally. Each aisle felt longer now, darker. The silence returned between each dragging sound, stretching, waiting. Then, I saw it. At the end of aisle 3, a cart. Not unusual, except it was moving, just slightly, rolling forward, on its own. My breath caught. "No," I muttered. There was no one pushing it, no one near it. And yet, it moved again. A slow, creaking roll. Then it stopped. The silence that followed was unbearable. And then, a voice, still working, right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Empty aisle. But I knew what I heard. I knew it. My heart was pounding so hard now it felt painful. "You shouldn't be here," I said, my voice barely steady. No response. But then, a soft laugh. Somewhere else this time. Not behind me. Closer. Always closer. I backed away, step by step, trying to keep my eyes on everything at once. Then, the lights flickered again, this time longer. And in that brief moment of darkness, I heard footsteps. Vast, closing distance. The lights came back, and he was there, standing at the end of the aisle. Closer than before. Much closer. But something had changed. He wasn't still anymore. His head tilted unnaturally, his shoulders slightly hunched, and his smile, it stretched wider than it should. Too wide. like something beneath the surface was trying to break through. "You ran," he said softly. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. "You weren't supposed to run." His voice sounded wrong now. Layered, almost like two voices speaking at once. "I didn't do anything," I said, my words trembling. He took a step forward. The cart behind me rolled again, blocking the aisle, trapping me. "You noticed," he said. Another step. "That's the problem." My back hit the shelf. Nowhere left to go. The operator's voice was still faintly echoing from the phone on the counter. Still there. Still real. But this was something else. "What do you want?" I whispered. He stopped, just a few feet away. And for the first time, his eyes changed. They focused, sharpened, locked onto mine. "I want to see," he said. A chill ran down my spine. "See what?" I asked. His smile widened again. "What you see." The lights flickered violently. And suddenly, everything went dark. Completely. No buzzing. No shadows. No sound. Just darkness. Then, a whisper, right next to my ear. "You see me now." I screamed and swung blindly. My hand hit something. Solid. A body. He staggered. I didn't wait. I pushed past him. Ran. Through the aisle. Through the store. The front door was just ahead. I could see the flashing red and blue lights outside. Relief flooded my chest. I was almost there. Almost. Something grabbed my shirt. Pulled hard. I fell forward, slamming onto the floor. The air knocked out of my lungs. Hands, cold, tight, grabbing my arm, dragging me back. "No," I shouted, kicking wildly. My fingers scraped against the tile, desperate for anything to hold onto. Then, the door burst open. "Police." The grip released instantly. I scrambled forward, crawling toward the light. Strong hands pulled me up. "You're okay," someone said. I turned back. The store was empty. Completely empty. No man. No movement. No sound. Just silence. Again, the officers searched every corner, every aisle, the back room, the bathroom. Nothing. Just like before. But this time, I knew better. Because as they walked past the glass door, one of them paused. "Hey." I followed his gaze. There it was again. That mark. But not just one this time. Multiple. Different heights. Different positions. Like several faces. Pressed against the glass. Watching. Waiting. Mini cliffhanger ending, asterisk. And as I stood there shaking, trying to understand what I had just survived, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. One of the marks was fresh, still forming. From the inside, there's a moment when fear stops being a reaction and becomes a realization. Standing there, surrounded by officers, lights flashing, voices overlapping, I wasn't thinking about what just happened anymore. I was thinking about what it meant. Because that mark on the glass was still forming. From the inside, right in front of us, one of the officers stepped closer. "Did you see that?" he asked. The other one frowned. "See what?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Never mind." "But I saw it. I felt it. That same pressure in the air. That same presence. Watching. Always watching. "I'm done," I said suddenly. My voice cut through the noise. "I'm not staying here. I'm not coming back." No one argued. Not this time. Because even if they didn't understand, they could tell something wasn't right. They escorted me outside. The cold air hit my face like a shock. Grounding. Real. But even out there, I didn't feel safe. Because I knew now. Distance didn't matter. That night was my last shift. I never went back. Never answered their calls. Never even drove past that street again. And for a while, things felt normal. I found another job. Day shifts. Crowded places. Noise. People. The opposite of everything that store had been. And slowly, the memory faded. Or at least, it buried itself deep enough to ignore. Until 3 weeks later. It started with something small. A sound. Late at night. Inside my apartment. A faint dragging noise. I froze in bed. Listening. It came again. From the hallway. My chest tightened. "No," I whispered. I got up slowly. Carefully. Grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon. And stepped into the hallway. The lights were off. The space dim. But empty. Completely empty. I checked every room. Closet. Bathroom. Kitchen. Nothing. No sign of anyone. I told myself it was nothing. Old pipes. Neighbors. Anything. But deep down, I knew better. Because the next night, it happened again. And the night after that. Always the same sound. Always when I was alone. Then, it escalated. I started noticing things out of place. A chair slightly moved. A door not fully closed. Small details. Easy to dismiss. Until I saw it. On the inside of my front door. A faint mark. At eye level. My breath caught. No. I stepped closer. And there it was. The same shape. The same distortion. Like a face. Pressed from the other side. But this time, there was no other side. Just my apartment. My space. My reality. I wiped it away. Frantically. But just like before, it didn't come off easily. Almost like it belonged there. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of my room. Lights on. Door locked. Watching. Waiting. And sometime around 3 a.m., I heard it. A whisper. Soft. Right behind me. "You still see?" I spun around. Nothing. But the air felt. Closer. Heavier. Like something had stepped into the room. Without making a sound. Days turned into weeks. The marks appeared more often. Different places. Walls. Mirrors. Windows. Always at eye level. Always watching. And the worst part, I started noticing something else. Not just the marks. Movement. Subtle. Reflections that didn't match. Shadows that lingered too long. Figures that disappeared when I focused. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. Sleep deprivation. Stress. Trauma. But then, I found something. Hidden in the pocket of my old work jacket. Something I didn't remember putting there. A small piece of paper. folded. I opened it slowly and felt my stomach drop, because written on it, in shaky, uneven handwriting, were 3 words: "We see you." And underneath, an eye, drawn over and over again. Different sizes, different shapes, but all staring, all focused, all aware. That's when I understood. This wasn't about that man. Not entirely. He wasn't the source. He was just the first one I noticed. The first one who noticed me. Because once you see them, they don't leave. They don't stop. They don't forget. They watch. From reflections. From darkness. From spaces you don't think to check. And sometimes, they get closer. Not all at once, but slowly, patiently, until one day, you don't just feel watched. You see them clearly, standing right in front of you, smiling, waiting for you to understand, for you to accept it, for you to join them. Final line asterisk. And if you're alone right now, in a quiet room, you might want to check the nearest reflection. Because the scariest part isn't that they're watching. It's that one day, you'll finally see them watching back.